My first property was $18,000. I put $2,000 down with a credit card, and I was making $25 a month.
I think that's the best example, Robert, because essentially what you did was you didn't use any of your own money. So the only costs that you had was whatever your debt was and whatever it cost the $1,800 on your credit card was.
Right. So but the idea was not to make money. The idea was to train my mind to think that I want 100% debt. Most people, I want to get out of debt. I want to get out of debt. I want to get out of debt. And what we're saying here is that debt pays all your expenses and gives you some income. That's really as simple as it gets. So we started with this. So if I have no money in the deal, it's 100% debt, and I'm making $25, what is my return on investment?
It's infinite.
That's this.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you basically have no investment, and you're making $25 a month. The reason why we want so much debt is because if I'm borrowing right now, I'm borrowing at say 4 or 4.5%, and inflation is say 4.5%. Then I'm using basically your money, pension fund,
mutual funds, savings.
Insurance, savings. I'm using your money to hedge inflation and buying assets. So that's how the system works, and that's how the wealthy get really wealthy.
You see, the best thing about doing those 100 deals is I was learning to think about debt is good. As long as you have in your mind that debt is bad, I want to use my equity, your ROI goes down.
That's a good point. And there is bad debt, of course. Bad debt would be credit card debt, or it could be
if it was costing me $25.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, so there's definitely debt that you don't want to get into. But we're talking about debt that's paid by a tenant. Debt that's paid off by somebody else. So that's a really important point. So if you're borrowing money, you're going to want to make sure that you have the rent to cover it.
Once again, if I hadn't done this myself, I would not understand what Kenny said.
It was a 144 unit property that was existing it was 95% occupied with tenants. So that was an important piece. And then next door it had another 10 acres. And so the deal is that I was going to build a second phase on the 10 acres, and then we were going to have one property that was 256 units. And so that's what we did. So we took the first 144 units and the land, and we went to the bank, and we got a construction loan to build the second phase. And then we built the second phase, and through good management, we filled up the property, and then we went back to the bank and we refinanced the whole project and got one loan on it. So we used debt to build it. We used debt to take out that construction debt.
We had this property, Edgewood.
Yep.
And it was pumping about $300,000.
Yeah.
So Kim and I, every year, were receiving $300,000
in cash flow from the tenants.
Income, most of it tax-free.
Yes.
Because of depreciation and all that, all those things you have to learn. So $300,000 for most people is a lot of money. The problem was Kim and I had, I think, $1 million in it, right?
Yeah, I think so.
We had $1 million equity in it. So what Kenny did when he refinanced it, he gave us our $1 million back. So Kim and I got all of our $1 million back, right?
Yeah, through a refinance.
And we still had this.
Right.
So we were receiving $300,000 with no money into a deal. To me, that's a great deal.
Yeah, and people might ask how. So there's a lot of things that happen inside of here. One was that this was over a 5 or 6 year period. The rents had gone up. We had increased the value. And during that time, interest rates went down. If you remember, I think we borrowed the original at somewhere around 7%, and then we refinanced somewhere around 5%. So we actually saved on the loan, on the interest rate of the loan. And so what we had a property that was worth a lot more, and it still cash flowed very close to what it cash flowed before, and we got the $1 million out. And the $1 million was tax-free because it's a refinance. So when you pull money out when you put a new loan over an old loan and you pull that money out, that's tax-free.
So with that $1 million, we gave it back to Kenny, another deal, money, same process, goes out, goes out, goes out. and now it's huge.
Yeah, it's what we call the velocity of money. Right. So now at that point, Robert and Kim were still in the deal. It was still cash flowing, and then that $1 million was also at work somewhere else.
And so I'm not saying it's easy and all that, but again, it starts as a process.
Yeah, and it's funny, people ask, because now, of course, Edgewood is infinite. There's no investment in the property, and it produces a great deal of cash flow every year.
And you're raising the rents, right?
That's right. Yeah, we're raising the rents, especially now in this market. But now people come to us and say, do you want to sell? Do you want to sell? And the question is why would we? Because it's producing all this cash flow and we have no investment. So all it would do is create a taxable event. So
we don't want the money, if
right.
you understand that.
Right. Yes, there's millions of dollars in equity in the project, but we're not interested in that. We're interested in the cash flow. It's a big difference in the way we think.
So I want you all to understand